There we go. My computer is being wacky this morning. Anyway, this is Ray. Sketchbook walkthrough number 3, I believe. This one is definitely high school going into college, I believe. I think that word on the front means reflection, if I remember right. I have never been fluent in Gaelic, but I did have made various attempts to learn it over the years. The cover is obviously no longer attached, despite my best attempts. Of course, in late high school, early college is when I really got into gaming, so I would expect several character profiles. This is, I believe, a necromancer who was himself... I don't know if he was a lich per se. He was certainly a skeleton. But, yeah. Oh, he's naked here. Yeah, so this page is almost unreadable, but not super important because it's just his GURPS profile. But yeah, so character sheet right at the start. And his grimoire. And more art. So, yeah, we know what I was up to when I started this sketchbook, clearly. Do not remember that game at all. Truly. We were a slightly ADHD-ish group, so some of our games did not reach a conclusion. Some of our games would go however many sessions until we got bored and started a new one. This page is blank. That appears to be a very pale drawing of the moon and a street lamp. I have always had trouble, with bold color, doing intensity of color, but man, that is really something else. That is super pale. More stuff of Shad, personalish art. More art of the Muse and the Fortune Teller, which are, there are actually a couple of statues that I made. They do not look like this. This was like a human personification that was supposed to go with them, but they are, in reality, a couple of sculptures that I made in high school. But yeah, they were kind of personal art. There's definitely some personal stuff going on here. And some Pictish. I don't know what it says. And in the last sketchbook, I referenced, I believe, the comic for the Spire. You saw the very beginnings of it. This is all kinds of, notes for stuff for the Spire. But here is where I actually started the comic itself. And we have the pub, bar, whatever you want to call it, that is the Spire. And then we have the Shangri-La pub, which is supposed to be a seedy place. And where its name actually comes from is way back in the when, which I grew up in Bellingham, Washington. And there was a little motel called the Shangri-La Inn or the Shangri-La Motel, something like that. And growing up, one of the distinctive things that I noticed about the Shangri-La pub, or Shangri-La Inn, was that it had a sign advertising hourly rates. As a young child, I did not know what that meant. By this age, I did indeed know what that meant. And so to me, that name was like the epitome of this very shady, seedy kind of place. So that's where the Shangri-La pub name comes from. No idea if that place is still in existence. Don't know what went on there, but that is where the Shangri-La pub comes from. But, yeah, I don't think I have these uploaded anywhere. It's very early learning how to draw comics in general. Already playing with some different unconventional layouts with the narrative text in a circle in the middle and stuff. So that's kind of nice to see. But yeah, I was learning how to comic. And we've got some of these characters are just random fill-ins. I don't know why there's a light bulb with arms. It just is. The dragon is a dragon. This is probably supposed to be Aziraphale and Crowley, or some hint to them from Good Omens. Of course, there was no show for that back in those days, but I had read the book. But yeah, we have the purple and green alien dog as seen in previous artwork, and this is like Joe Normal. This is actually a lady space pirate. She's got her helmet on here. And this, if you remember my previous sketchbook, this is a Black Illuminari. I think her name is like Lorek Ta or something. And here's Reggie the bartender. And this is my character that I now have a comic for up online, Damien Stockholm. He looks way too skinny here, mostly because I just was still learning how to draw heavier people. But yeah, I mean, you can kind of read for yourself. My handwriting's not great, but no worse than it has ever been. But we got Reggie the bartender, and some of these exchanges and phrases come from friends in high school and college. Yeah, DS is having an exchange with the alien dog. I don't know why there's a hot dog with antlers. I think that was my friend Eric's suggestion. You may notice in the background there is a second bartender. Reggie is not the sole bartender of the Spire. It's going to go back and forth. There will be more pages, some of them in ink, some of them in pencil. But yeah, working at flying anatomy with a human skeleton. That appears to be a failed page. With Reggie saying, even I admit things can get kind of strange around here, but you get used to it after a while. This was me trying to do... Oh god, this poor cover. A kind of a cast of characters of Guest to the Spire. I had Glyndevon here, who you will see later art of, I believe in this same sketchbook. Joe Normal. The alien dog, who I believe his name is Siegfried. I don't know why I didn't label him there. Jeanette the space pirate, as I said, she had her helmet on. Damien Stockholm and Reggie. Trying to differentiate their speech with different fonts, even though it's handwritten. To this day, to my mind, that is Damien Stockholm's handwriting now. He's got this very angular handwriting. Just a little D&D type comic. Why the vampire rabbit and the space monkey, I don't know, but it is what it is. And more of the Spire. Banana peel. Oh, okay. Yeah, the management will not be held responsible for lost or stolen R's was a joke about a New York accent, or a New York accent, where the R's get dropped frequently. Siegfried in the previous panel was communicating through telepathy, now he's speaking. I don't know. I was inconsistent. This is a continuation where I'm not sure who that is. That might be the boss, who's actually secretly me, saying, Reggie, I just saw the reality police outside. And then the coat closet says, out of order, do not open. And there's thumping noises from inside the coat closet, which Joe Normal notices. And then he approaches Reggie and says, you stuffed them in the closet again. Honestly, Reg, that's the third time this week. With the implication that the reality police visit on the regular because the Spire breaks the laws of reality a little too often. Oh my god. Ancient layout for websites. I used to write my websites in Notepad. Just raw HTML in Notepad, because those were the days. They were usually GeoCities websites. This is the other bartender that was in the background was going to be Sasha, who is the bartender in Casablanca. The actor's name was Leonid Kinski. So that is who the other bartender. God, his mustache and mouth are having some issues in this drawing. But that is who the other bartender besides Reggie was supposed to be, was Sasha from Casablanca. So that's who the figure in the background was. But I didn't give him as many speaking parts because he was in fact a real character from real media, played by a real actor. That I don't know why the random furry cartoon of the Foxy Dame, and that is clearly a stool pigeon. The puns, they are terrible. This is clearly my scripting for the previous. They're out of order. This is page 1. This is page 2. But this is clearly the scripting for those previous 2 pages about the reality police. So you can see I was kind of learning how to like write a script for comics, how to, figure out my layout. I got little sketches on the side and stuff. So, I was, like I said, I was learning how to comic. This is a still life. At my friend Gabe's house, where I pretty much lived when I wasn't at home or at my classes in college. His place was the place to be. But a lot of people would end up with kind of a favorite mug. I remember everybody there drank coffee, just so many people drinking coffee. So they would get coffee that smelled, the coffee grounds smelled like dirt, or sometimes cigarette butts, or sometimes both. We drank it anyways. Just the cheapest coffee imaginable. And in their cabinet, this was my favorite mug. Yes, I chose it for the irony, and people thought it was disturbing. I believe the coveralls were green, and the eyes were painted blue. I think the nose had been pink, but like most of it was worn off. The arrangement of the ears was just horrifically malformed to me. So yeah, I chose it for the irony, but that was like my go-to mug at their house. And everybody knew, if somebody else poured coffee for me and I didn't get to it myself, they would pour it in that mug for me. I think several other people had their own, favorite mugs there as well. Not just me, but yeah, so that was a still life. I'm sure that mug is long since gone. I don't know. Just a ballpoint pen drawing of an elfin guy. My friend Eric Donkey was, for all I know to this day, I'm not in contact with him anymore, but he was the absolute fucking master of texturing with ballpoint pen. And just, was able to get all these different layers of shading. So I really learned that technique from him. So this is me, trying to learn from his work. We have a mixture of Pictish and Futhark runes down the banner. I don't know what it says. I know this last word is free. That's an R. Those are E's. Oh no, 3. That's a Thurasaz. That's TH. So 3. R-A... Yeah. I don't know for sure what that says. I definitely don't know what the Pictish says. But, yeah, it's, some of my older art, not half bad. Would I do it differently now? Probably. I would do like a background and stuff, but hey, I did some decent work. These were all quick impression sketches of people at the bus station. When I was in college, I took the city bus a lot, so I spent a lot of time at the transfer bus station downtown. Pretty normal looking girl. She was interesting. I believe she was a regular. This other woman, I don't know that a rubber chicken is what she was actually holding. That is supposed to be a rubber chicken. Um, I think I couldn't tell what she was holding, so I substituted a rubber chicken for the sake of something, because she was clutching something to her chest like that. Um, but yeah, just, people studies. Obviously getting a lot better at drawing human beings at this point. Like I can see a clear progression of this, from the way I drew them back in that very first sketchbook between middle school and high school, that maybe not flawless, but I'm clearly improved on drawing people by now. Just a lot of weird, random stuff. A sketch of the sky, doodle of Zorak, some holy shit. A fairy cow with a mohawk and a magic... I don't know. I was a little overexposed to the Teletubbies over one brief summer vacation. This may be before that, though. I don't know. The Teletubbies were popular. That is supposed to be me with the Demons of Coffee. By late high school, I was into coffee. And, yeah, okay. When you're younger, lots of sugary additions to coffee make it even better. I still drink my coffee with cream and sugar, but not necessarily to an excessive amount anymore. But yeah, that's supposed to be a cartoon of me. We got a little floor plan of the spire here. Even though it didn't make it into the comics, I had it in my head. And there's Sasha's area and Reggie's area of the bar. They got different parts, and yeah, just mapping out my thoughts. This is fan art of the later version of Dream, Daniel Dream, from the Sandman comics. Yeah, I have thoughts about Neil Gaiman. I will not say them here. Fortunately, I never fell into that kind of idol worship for him, which I'm grateful that I never did, but I did like his work. I've always been a big fan of mythology. So yeah, I picked up Sandman right as it was getting towards the end, right as it was getting into the kindly ones. Those were like the current issues when I got into it. And then I bought all the back issues, and I have all of it. And, I'm still going to go back and reread it. I just will never buy anything that gives Neil Gaiman money again in the future. But I am also grateful to Good Omens, which included Neil Gaiman, but was, I believe, my introduction to Terry Pratchett, since he co-wrote it. And Terry Pratchett withstands the test of time. I have so much Discworld. I was not reading Discworld yet at this point in time, but I have since as an adult. Another comic page. And, yeah, that stands on its own. The boss is me. You do not ever see the boss. The boss remains obscured in shadow at their private corner of the bar. But yeah, the boss is supposed to be me. I had a thing for a number of years there about, the irony of pink fluffy bunnies turned horrific. So, yeah, the mug kind of tied in with that, but I believe this dragon is somewhat based off of my buddy's lizard, Haster, who was a Savannah Monitor dragon, or Savannah Monitor lizard. He might have been a small dragon. I say small, but he was probably about almost 4 feet long by the time he got rid of him. No, not that long. Maybe more like 3 feet. But sizable lizard. He started out eating more crickets and stuff and pinky mice, and then we ended up having to buy mice on the regular, and a little bit expensive. But yeah, I think that dragon's based off him. He was a cool lizard. Not his fault that he was expensive to feed. And we can see here a date that this was by 99. Like I said before, I graduated high school in 97, so this is definitely getting into college at this point. These are a couple of characters I've never really done much with, but their names are Elar and Stradivarius. I think that's right. Not Stradivarius. Something very similar to the guy who made violins, but not quite. But yeah, that's that guy's the Jester. It's the Jester and the Albino King. And the Albino King happens to be a necromancer, but he's a nice necromancer. And they live in a swamp, and he's got like all these assorted orc skeletons and stuff around as servants, because those were the skeletons that were in the swamp where they decided to take up residence. But I never really did anything with them. They're just characters that exist. This is a character the people who first met me online back in the day will know quite well. Tam Citronrath, who was my bard character. He started out looking like neither of these. He started out looking somewhere halfway in between these, because he had like a youth spell on him. But he had formerly been a fire mage and had like a tragic accident and blew up his family and shit. And then later on became a bard. And so it's like him confronting his younger self. And some little stuff with like a personal symbol and working out his outfit and stuff like that. Is what the little sketches are. Experimenting with drawing ocean waves and fire and sky, just various elements. I could do better now, but you know, it's a cool concept. I can see what I had going there. Some fan art of Shan Yu from Mulan. I quite liked Mulan, but then I was disappointed when she went back to being a girl at the end. And then I quickly came around to prefer Shan Yu because, honestly, the Huns kind of justified. You know, if you look into the history and everything, the Chinese built the wall there and they said, we'll protect our territory from the Huns. Well, they built the Great Wall of China many, many miles into the Mongolian territory, basically taking a bunch of their territory and then saying, this is ours now. This is our new border that we have pushed into your territory. So that's actually why the Huns were attacking, because they were trying to reclaim their territory that had been taken away from them and walled off. So historically, the Chinese maybe not 100% the good guys in that conflict. But, you know, there might be other details too that I don't know. This page intentionally left blank. I don't know. Not an actual stray cat, just, you know, supposed to be a stray cat. We got some fan arts here. I could not tell you this character's name. Obviously, I didn't finish it, but I know it was from some kind of CGI cartoon that was going on, that was happening, and I just thought it was a really cool character design. And this is Raph from Mummies Alive. So also, you know, some fan art. I believe that is his staff. So he's not, I don't know why he's giving that skeptical look to it, but it's not attacking him or anything. It's his actual staff. But yeah, so we got some fan art there. I don't know, character names. This is me trying to make a watercolor painted version of that previous ink drawing, and I did not finish it, unfortunately. I think I may have been trying to come up with names at this point, because I see Elar on there, which is his name. Just some slightly abstract art. I like birds. This is actually Jeanette, who we saw earlier in the Spire. I believe this is actually from a GURPS game that we had going, and my friend Mike, was actually playing a space monkey with a banana pistol. So that was his actual character, and just we had blown up some shit and we were running from the explosions, and I thought it made for a good action-packed art piece. So there you have it. That's Jeanette without a bunch of armor. She was my space pirate character for a while. I did dress up as her for Halloween a couple times. This is the first ever character profile page, I believe, for DS. Damien Stockholm. And I could certainly do a better one now. Some of these things have changed. I don't think he's 5'6". I'm sure I put that because I'm 5'6", but I'd say he's probably more like 5'8". He's, on the shorter side, but not anything crazy short. But yeah. Don't call that phone number. I don't know who that would be. That was, I believe, my phone number in Bellingham with a Manhattan area code in front of it. So yeah, that's what's going on there. And I drew it, or wrote it, I should say, in what was supposed to be his kind of handwriting. I had not figured out how to draw more heavy-set people, but I was trying. Not so much a character profile per se, but that was supposed to be a drawing of me in college, a self-portrait. I thought I was a girl. I thought I was bad at being a girl. I look at, the way that I drew myself, and the femininity was definitely not a forward part of my self-identity. That's for damn sure. I still have a hat that looks like that to this day. I'm on my third hat of that style, but I do still in fall and winter wear a hat that looks almost identical to that. It is kind of my trademark. Coffee, absolutely. I finished it, but still a coffee drinker. Yeah, that's my fashion sense hasn't changed a whole lot. I don't tend to wear my shirts tucked in anymore. That feels like that was more of a 90s thing, but yeah. I don't look too different. Got a beard now. This I'm not going to say a whole lot about, but it was like engraving on a blue plastic tile in a dream that I had, and that's about all I remember. Just like increasingly zooming in on it, and yeah. Don't know what any of it means. Didn't know what any of it meant then. Oh, and here we have, I know I saw it, yeah. She was probably one of my longest standing roleplay characters ever. Her name is Osen. She was I think she was full elven. I'm cheating here because I know I have the original old character sheet. Yeah, full elven. And she was a thief. This is her original character sheet. She little, and her original raggedy clothing. But she started picking up more stuff. She was a street city elf. I was very particular on that. So, when she encountered all those fancy Lothlorien-esque woodsy elves, she was just like, I'm not that kind of elf. She grew up in an urban environment. I do always feel the need to point out that I did not forget to have her cast a shadow. I was, in fact, very specific that the window frames and the sign and everything were casting shadows. Oh, try not to sneeze there. She is wearing studded leather armor and her knives and a cloak of invisibility. And we had discussed it at one point. I think I had discussed with my friend Gabe, who's the GM, that an invisibility cloak is useless if you still cast a shadow. So I was very distinctly trying to show there that she was not casting a shadow. She also had boots that allowed her, like, Spider-Man walk, stick to any surface. So that's what's going on there. I love that I have included the rope attaching the crossbow, should she drop it by accident, that it will still be attached to her. Which, if you're walking on the ceiling and walls, could be a potential concern. So, good on me. Not going to go into that, but chat again. Here we have, even though her character profile was on a separate sheet, a list of knives and things that she had obtained throughout a game. Cloak of Invisibility, Spidey wall walking boots, permanently on. Not permanently, but what she wore by default. And yeah, various crossbows, and just she kept picking up cool stuff. And just so many knives. Oh, she loved knives. And this is not my drawing. This is my buddy Gabe's drawing as the GM. And so he had created this base that we ended up having to fight our way through and fight the traps and everything. But we defeated the majority of it. We fought our way through it and everything, and killed the dude, whose name I guess was Tarzov. And so yeah, we were like, hey, this place is ours. So yeah, it became Osen's hideaway, because it's all hers now. Oh, didn't mean to bump the camera. Some sketches, I think either Mike or Gabe did those, of some of the knives that she picked up. I was probably leaving this for additional inventory that never happened. But I actually live roleplayed her in a camping LARPing thing at one point. Yeah, she was one of my characters for the longest time. I know I translated her to the actual D&D 5e system at one point and played her in another game as well. Back to the Spire. We have the cast again. There was a GURPS-based game called In Nomine. It was very angels and demons. And it had something of the different types of angels or demons or whatever, and counting a soda machine or something. So that's where this whole thing comes from. But yeah, in the spirit of In Nomine and other bad jokes, we bring you the Spire confronted with a soda machine. Confronted with a soda machine, DS, who is a pretty conventional, normal-ass dude, would mooch change off everyone who walked by and buy himself lots of sodas. Confronted with a soda machine, Siegfried, the green and purple dog, would spend hours telling everyone about the more technologically advanced one he has at home. Confronted with a soda machine, Reggie would demand to know what the bleep it was doing in his bar. I mean, that is competition. That's fair. Confronted with a soda machine, Lorekta, who is the Black Luminary, she is a spy, I believe, would dismantle it when no one was looking, extract a soda, replace the empty can in the appropriate slot, put everything back together exactly as it was, and never be blamed when the machine mysteriously dispensed an empty can. That's got to be the best answer on there. Confronted with a soda machine, Joe would buy a soda if he was thirsty and had some change. Confronted with a soda machine, Glyndevon would hope it wasn't watching him and walk away slowly with a hand on his swords. I don't know that they have soda machines specifically in the world that he comes from, which is now called Arakaar. Didn't really have that mythology going yet, but yeah, he's very cautious. Confronted with the soda machine, Jeanette would perforate it with the Mega Laser 2000 gun, or possibly a bazooka, and if there was anything left to drink afterwards, she would proceed to turn the machine into a melted pile of metal and plastic upon discovering that its contents were non-alcoholic. The management will not be held responsible for any liquids erupting through the nose. It's always funnier if you're drinking something. Also, we have an evil bunny. And a flying pig. Just because. Also, I was practicing with chibi art periodically. Now the drawing of the Shadow Trickery. A realistic drawing of very early Osen, before she got her cool armor and shit, and chibi Osen. Look, I was watching a lot of anime back in those days. Sketches that didn't go very far, but that is Damien Stockholm. That is Terrence Colburn, who is kind of a future version of Tam. It's complicated. And that's Jack, who's like a time traveler dude, who also ended up in some kind of GURPS game. Unfinished drawing inside of a church. Very pretty watercolors. This one will, at some point in the hopefully not too distant future, get a revamp. I've talked about Damien Stockholm. I have my first Damien Stockholm comic up online where people can read it. The link is in my blog. This is from another story of Damien Stockholm, which is the one that I'm currently converting storyboarding into a comic. So this will see a redux. Obviously, I never finished this picture. Looks like I started coloring it in watercolor pencil and didn't get very far. But I don't know why I made his head so big. The jaw-dropping thing, absolutely. I do have the vampires doing that, but I don't know why I made his head massive. That was a little bit of a weird choice. Anyways, yeah, Damien Stockholm facing off against an old guy in his bathrobe who was a vampire. This is the first ever drawing of my character Glyn Devon. At some point I will probably talk more about poison elves, but definitely was an influence on his costume. But yeah, the character was very much in his early stages then. I do have comic plans for him eventually too, but he is part of a much larger world these days. I think I kind of altered the sword design sense as well. But yeah, hey, elves with facial hair. Not bad art. Some good shading there. Sometimes you just take multiple attempts at drawing a sexy, big-thighed woman with a sword, and it just never quite works. I think that's it. But there are a few extras hidden in the back. This is the drawing that defied my graphic design teacher in college because it's so nicely luminous on the black paper, and I kept trying to scan it and just couldn't quite reproduce it when scanning it in. And I finally had one of my best graphic design teachers that said, well, you've done as good as you can possibly do, but you're talking about literally two different types of color and ways of seeing, because physical media is, and this is an interesting translation because you're looking at both, is reflected light. It is the light bouncing off the pigment. So in person, this would be reflected light. Whereas on a digital screen, you're talking about like projected light, because the light is coming at you through the screen. The screen is, I'm trying to point to my computer monitor. The screen is emitting light and making color that way. So it's literally a different way of seeing color. And just, it's never going to be one-to-one because they are literally two different methods of seeing. So yeah, that was a really interesting lesson to me in just media and color, and yeah. So cool picture. Will never scan and look the way it does in person. I don't know why there's Graceland lyrics at the bottom of this, but this was another self-portrait in college. Again, not very feminine. Clearly anime influenced. I got my coffee maker there, my coffee. I have an Aardvark plushie. Aardvarks were kind of my thing for a number of years there. And there was an Aardvark plushie that a friend of mine sent me. I say it that way because This was in college, so almost 30 years ago. But now we're married, so that friendship worked out quite well. But yeah, I was wearing blazers a lot. That's some pieces of jewelry that I may or may not still have around. Um, those were sunglasses. I've never worn glasses, but I do wear sunglasses year round, and I believe because it's anime style, that's actually supposed to be my eyes above the sunglasses, but they're closed and I'm winking, and then my eyebrows. So it's not a double eyebrow situation; it's an eyes above the sunglasses situation. Um, but yeah, so I guess that's how I saw myself in college. Between that and the earlier one, um, I had my art tablet. Clearly, I was getting more into the graphic design course by this point. Um, whereas I think probably this earlier stuff was probably 97 or 98, earlier college. I don't I don't know that there's this is 97, June 20th, 97. So this sketchbook does again span quite a ways. I'm sure there was plenty of other art that I did outside of the sketchbook. I was really, I still to this day, I do a lot of art that is not in sketchbooks, but then I kind of have it on the side for stuff that I don't have plans to sell that art or do specific things with it. So, yeah, that was a little bit of a longer one, but sketchbook number 3. I still have more sketchbooks to go. Um, I don't know. This is probably the last one that's got college stuff. I think most of the rest go into more after college and after I moved out here. But thank you for being entertained by my old ass art. And I'll see you guys next time.